All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Give me a touch on the top prop bets here for this Monday night showdown between the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go in and get into it. But first, just a recap of the Sunday picks thus far. This is the only slip that is finalized right now. 4-4-5 on the day. But what you're going to see here is Justin Simmons had his over assist. There was another stat correction, guys. And I say another because last night we had Hunter Dickinson where he had cashed his middle for us on both PrizePicks and Underdog where he had a massive prop line difference. And then they did a stat correction after the game was over. That was tilting. Also, 2 nights ago, we had Brandon Smith where he gets a rebound with like 5 seconds left on a block shot at the end of the game on a shot that didn't matter. That was tilting. This might be the most tilting one thus far. 4 for 5, guys. Sure, it's a double up. We'll take it. I'm not complaining, but I am a little bit annoyed, especially the fact that it was a stat correction, that we had it and it was taken away from us. Annoying there, but good stuff there. I'm recording this video right before the Sunday night football game, so we'll see how the rest of the bets on the day go. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into this Monday night football game. And so looking at the game preview for this game, we are going to see kind of a lower scoring game, especially considering some of the games that we had this week already. 41.5 points. The Texans are going to be favored by 7 points in this game. Now, really the two kind of pieces that we need to talk about in this game is one, Nico Collins is going to be back in this game. He is apparently good to go. We'll see. I didn't see anything about him being limited at all snaps wise. I think they've been pretty conservative with him in terms of letting that hamstring heal up as much as possible. So it seems like he'll be able to hit the ground running. So he should be good to go. And then obviously the other piece is Dak Prescott, obviously still out here. That means we're going to get Cooper Rush, who last week obviously did not look good. 13 completions, 23 attempts, only 45 yards total. They were just terrible there against the Eagles. We'll see if it gets a little bit better this week, hopefully, right? It really can't get that much worse. If not, we might see Trey Lance, who also did not look good as well. We have seen Cooper Rush be at least somewhat of a capable backup in the past, so I do expect him to bounce back at least somewhat. And then one other thing I want to talk about as well before we get into the picks is the role of Rico Dowdle. Like, is it going to be actually him getting a bulk of the carries again? Because this offense looked pretty decent in the one game that happened. And I bring that up because Mike McCarthy has been pretty vocal about saying, oh, we need to get him more work. He's our lead back. We need to get him more work. And then every single week it's more of the same. Okay, only 52% of the snaps last week. They have this weird infatuation with getting Zeke the football, even though the offense just does not look good. Please get Rico the football. Okay, you're going to see props that would suggest he's going to get a heavy workload. I think that'll be the case, but again, it is a little bit of a guessing game because Mike McCarthy has been vocal about this in the past and it just hasn't come to fruition. And so looking at the bets that we are getting, the best bet that we are getting is going to be CeeDee Lamb to get under his fantasy score. Now, this is personally one that I don't feel like we should be targeting too much, at least on PrizePicks where it's at 14. If you guys think he's going to have a bad game, we'd be better off betting on the under on Underdog because the line's slightly higher there. Again, remember, there is a slight prop line difference. PrizePicks full point PPR. Underdog half point PPR. But I think it's worth calling out, like CeeDee Lamb still had 10 targets in that game. The receptions were still there for him as well. His reception line in this game is going to be 6.5 there, projected to get almost 60 yards receiving. So I get why the under's being favored there because you look at the demon here where it's obviously it's a demon bet. It's not likely for him to score a touchdown. So I get why the under's being favored there. It's just not exactly one that I'm excited to go out my way to target. I actually kind of like his over receptions slightly better there. One player that was also popping up on the board is Jalen Tolbert for his over fantasy score and his potential over receptions. This is a bet that's very popular right now on PrizePicks, which honestly kind of concerns me because at least 2,500 people have bet this one simply because they have seen these green screens. We know it, guys. At least the over is the favorite here. Now, if you guys have been watching the channel, you guys have found me talking up Jalen Tolbert a decent amount, especially when Brandon Cooks went out. I said he's a natural replacement for Brandon Cooks, and that has been what has happened. Now, given the fact that the Cowboys are 7-point dogs in this game, we do assume that they're going to be throwing the football a decent amount, whether that's Cooper Rush or whether that's Trey Lance. Hopefully it's Cooper Rush. Honestly, Trey Lance more of a rushing quarterback if he gets in. But I do like this over. He's someone that should get a lot of playing time in this game. The targets have been there for him. Like, we pull up his snaps from last week, guys, like 90% of the snaps, I think we can almost lock in him getting around, let's just say at least 80% of the snaps, but really since Brendan Cooks has been out, it's been like 90% of the snaps. And we got to remember, this is not a bad matchup there going against Houston. The targets have been there for Tolbert as well. 5, 6, 3, 5, 10. Like, he has been a target machine again since Cooks has been out. He should be able to get this over, but the yardage totals haven't exactly been there. But if he does get 3 receptions, if he does get the over 2.5 receptions, he should be able to get the fantasy score. So if for whatever reason the public really boosts the over 2.5 receptions to the point where PrizePicks or Underdog has to bump it to 3, I'd be fine betting his over fantasy score. But that heavily correlates. I think I would just rather bet on his over 2.5 receptions as it sits right now. And for what's worth, we do have him projected to get 2.71, so obviously that bodes well for us. We are seeing a slight prop line difference here for Jake Ferguson to get over 34.5 receiving yards. And so I actually don't mind Jake Ferguson. He's playing a lot. He's still the top tight end in this offense. Like, that's not a terrible route to go. Again, Houston, not the best defense, especially against stopping the pass. So, that is their weakness. So I could see betting this. It is off by 3 compared to Underdog, compared to the average sportsbook line, off by 2. So not a terrible route to go. Obviously, not a crazy edge there, but not terrible. And then I do want to take a peek. Well, I'll show you guys the prop line difference here that we are getting for Cooper Rush with his passing yards. So PrizePicks has it at 78.5. Underdog has it at 182.5. The projection data likes the over at 190. And the sportsbook line is at 178.5. So definitely a mixed bag there, but did want to call out if you guys see an edge there. If you think he's going to struggle, obviously you'd rather bet that on Underdog. If you think he's going to have a good game, at least a decent game, you'd rather bet that on the over on PrizePicks. Then I want to get into Rico. So Rico is someone that when we are watching the games or when you're watching the games with Dallas, you just see that, one, he's probably a better back than Zeke, but really just the offense functions better with him out there. There's just like this weird thing that happens when Zeke's on the field where it just feels like they're trying to go out of their way to get him the football. Maybe that's just more of a Dak thing that was just happening. It's kind of tough to explain, but I do think the offense has looked better with Rico on the field. And so the biggest question is, how much work is he indeed going to get in this game? Because, again, Mike McCarthy been vocal about trying to get him the football more. I do like the over 12.5 rush attempts, but at the same time, this is a difficult matchup here going against Houston. Again, their weakness is definitely through the pass or in the passing game. And so if Rico's only getting about 50 to even 60% of the work, it's going to be more difficult for him to get the over here. And we would need the game to stay close enough for long enough. I get that that's probably why he didn't play as much last week, because the game was just a blowout. This is only a 7-point spread. If they can keep the game close enough for long enough, I would favor that over 12.5 rush attempts. But I do think the lines that we're getting on him are all pretty correct. I do not see a massive edge here, unfortunately. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and jump on into Underdog, sticking with the Dallas Cowboys. And really the best bet would be Jake Ferguson to get under 7.8 for his fantasy score. Not exactly one that I'm excited to get to, but this is kind of a way of betting on potentially like just this Dallas offense not playing well. So if you think that, I would kind of just suggest betting that more so on Underdog rather than on PrizePicks. That's really what this is telling us. Now, there is one bet that's kind of casually popping up here on Underdog, and it's about a 52% likely to hit on the 9-to-5 cheat sheet, and that would be CeeDee Lamb to get over 11.5 first quarter receiving yards. We see his total receiving yards for the game at 60. This is really just a bet mostly on them getting the ball to start the game. That's really what it comes down to, getting that extra possession then, most likely in the first quarter. That can be 2 possessions. That could be key. Might just be 1, depending on game flow and whatnot. Maybe it is 2, maybe it's 3. The biggest reason why we see that big difference, though, obviously, like 12 times 4 quarters doesn't really get close to 60, right? And so this is more bet on them kind of getting the football to start the game. And that was kind of it for Dallas. Let's go ahead then and get into Houston here. Again, sticking with Underdog. And what we're going to see is we are getting some unders here, again, mostly for Underdog. They're typically a little bit higher with their lines, guys. That's just how it goes. Dalton Schultz for under his fantasy score there. A little bit of a revenge game there for Dalton Schultz going against his former team in the Dallas Cowboys. Nico Collins for under his fantasy score. If you think he's going to hit the ground running, you'd want to bet his overs more so on PrizePicks, and Dalton Schultz as well for that matter. You'd want to bet their overs more on PrizePicks. That's really what this is telling us. The bet that I like the most and the bet really that the public likes the most is going to be Joe Mixon to get over 21.5 rush attempts. We do see that the average sportsbook line would have it closer to a 50-50 at around 21 rush attempts, though, where they're slightly favoring the under here then. And so definitely an interesting line. Let's take a peek at why this one's popping up. So we know that this offense has really been flowing through Joe Mixon since Nico Collins been out. And I think that's something important to call out. The rush attempts have clearly been there for him, especially over the last 4 games. 25, 24, 25, 25. Against New England, only 13. That was his first game back from injury. And then against Chicago, only 9 did get injured in that game. So for the most part, guys, basically in every game that he's been healthy, he has been able to get this over. But with Nico Collins back, I could see them potentially not stressing the run game as much. Right against Detroit, he was not efficient, but he still got a lot of carries. And so if that's happening in this game, they might be able to turn to Nico Collins instead and kind of alleviate some of the work. So I could see that happening, but again, they are 7-point favorites, so chances are they're going to be playing with the lead. This is a bet on Vegas being right about that spread, and if they are, he should be the one kind of wearing the game down through his rush attempts. And so I really don't mind this one. I do like that. Definitely interesting that the under's being favored there. Don't like that aspect of it, but still going to be a good bet for us. Any other ones that are really popping up here? I mean, not too much. It'll be interesting to see which Houston Texans receiver is the receiver number 3. John Mechie is someone that they like, but they also like Xavier Hutchinson, who played 84% of the snaps last week. I honestly don't know. It's a guessing game. It really is. Robert Woods might even be the number 3 still. I don't know. I wish I did. It does feel like a guessing game. I would somewhat guess that's just schematics. Mechie more of a kind of Tank Dell type guy. They do clearly like Xavier Hutchinson. Like my guess would be Hutchinson to be the receiver number 3. But at this point, we're really not getting any lines for him, so not really worthwhile. Now, one bet that we are getting that I don't mind is Tank Dell to get over 3.5 receptions. Now, this is a bet that on Underdog is at like 0.9x, so not exactly one we're going out of our way to target on Underdog. I believe it's bumped up to 4 on PrizePicks. I'm still kind of okay with that over. The nice thing about Tank Dell is lately, especially with Diggs out, he's been getting some of those quick hitters, some of those like manufactured touches. Now that could go away again with Nico Collins being there, but that should maybe improve his quality of targets as well. It's a good matchup there against Dallas. I do like the over of 3.5 receptions. I do think he has a good chance to at least to honestly get to 5, but I would put the line myself at 4. Now we are seeing Nico Collins under 5.5 receptions is one of the better bets that we have on the PrizePicks board here. The projection data is kind of giving him 5.61, as well as the average sportsbook line, heavily favoring the under there at 5.61. Definitely an interesting line. And the only reason I would want to bet on this one for the under is thinking that he's not going to play his full allotment of snaps that we saw him play earlier on this season. And I don't think that's really a good bet. I think they were very cautious with him and that he should be good to go. Now, if you guys see anything in the morning when this is posted, and that is kind of some of the news that's out there, sure, maybe he's going to play 60% of the snaps, then we could bet this under. Do want to call it there is a decent prop line difference going on between Dalton Schultz on PrizePicks and Underdog. We saw this with Pat Freiermuth, where it just seemed like Underdog really wasn't accounting or was over accounting for his likely to score a touchdown. That was with Pat Freiermuth. And then PrizePicks really wasn't accounting for him to score a touchdown. That's exactly what's happening here with Dalton Schultz as well between these two lines. So PrizePicks is basically giving us his receptions line and his receiving yards as just a straight up one, whereas Underdog is a little bit over factoring his likely to score a touchdown. And so with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the bets of the day for this slate. Do want to remind you guys of the promo code that's currently going on the 9 to 5 website. Use the promo code KEEPCASH and to get 20% off your first 9 to 5 membership, or if you guys are a returning member, take advantage of that there as well. All right, guys, so looking at the bet slip here, going to be going with the unders on Underdog. Those were the ones that were popping up the most there. Really just betting on these guys to not score touchdowns. That's essentially what this is. They're all not likely to score a touchdown. We need that to happen. And at least it is projected to be a lower scoring game. Now, it also is a game that's projected to have the Texans winning by 7 points. If that occurs, then we're probably looking at Joe Mixon to still continue to get a heavy workload. I am a little bit worried with Nico Collins being there, healthy now, maybe taking away a little bit of the focus, I guess, on Joe Mixon in this offensive scheme. But again, given the point spread, I do like this over here for Joe Mixon. And then Jalen Tolbert, the game should set up well for the Dallas Cowboys, having to throw the football a bunch. He still played his full normal snaps of 90% in a game last week that was a blowout, so we shouldn't have to worry about that really hurting his snaps. So for him to get over 2.5 receptions, that is a good bet. Do want to call it the average sportsbook line for both of these is not the best. So this is more me kind of going with what I see as the game flow for this game. Now that's going to do it for this video, guys. Appreciate you being here. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. Again, if you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, head on over to 9to5sport.com. Get access to those for just $10 a month. That's going to be all, guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.